All right, welcome back to Navigating Adulthood and IDD. I'm so excited. Today we have Hannah Gallagher, a board certified music therapist from California. Welcome.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
Yay, and I'm excited because as the listeners may or may not know, I'm a music therapist too. But other than that, like I haven't had a music therapist on yet, so I'm really excited. Yeah, you're officially the first music therapist that
I
I'm
feel special.
interviewing. So I've like talked about music therapy a little bit, but not too much. So I'm really excited like that now that can shine this episode.
Great. I love it. I'm excited.
Awesome. So can we start with you telling us a little bit about yourself and maybe your work?
hmm Yeah. My name is Hannah. I live in Daly City, which is in Bay Area. I'm like 5 minutes from San Francisco. And I am a music therapist and person-centered planning coordinator for a nonprofit organization that provides services for children all the way through adults with developmental and intellectual disabilities. And I primarily work in the adult services. So I've been there for about 2.5 years. It was my first music therapy job, and I'm still with it, and I love it. And this organization has been great because they have allowed me to kind of start this little music therapy program and slowly start to grow it. So yeah, it's been great.
Oh, that's so exciting. That's awesome. I feel like sometimes like new professionals might not like stay at their first job very long for whatever reason. It's not a good fit or trying to even find yourself as a music therapist and like what you want to do. So it's exciting. Like it was a good fit and you've been able to grow this program.
Yeah, and I mean, it's such a journey, and there's a lot more we can do. But it just started with me, and it's still me. But this semester I have a music therapy student kind of under my wing, a practicum student, and
Oh,
I
cool.
get to watch what I'm doing. So that's like one step closer in growing this program and kind of like spreading the awesome word of music therapy with adults with developmental and intellectual disabilities.
Yeah, I would have loved that as a practicum. I did have an adults with IDD practicum, and they like came to the School of Music, which was
Mm.
cool. But that would have been like really cool to be like kind of out and like in the action and like kind of know what it's more like to work at different facilities. Are you at different facilities?
Yeah, so pre-COVID, I was in two different buildings, and I would rotate my time because in addition to being music therapist, I also do person-centered planning, which involves a lot of goal writing and working with social workers and the treatment teams and everything like that. But yeah, I go back and forth to different buildings and split my time there.
Cool. Yeah. And we could dive into it now if you want. You just touched on it pre-COVID. So like what's going on now? How's
Yeah.
2020?
Oh man. I
Are the fires
I
bad
honestly,
around where you are?
sorry, say that again.
Are the fires bad or is that a different part of California?
The fires are bad. Yesterday, actually, we woke up to bright orange skies.
Oh,
Yes, it was quite the experience. We were all very confused. The air quality wasn't actually that bad, we were told, but it looked
but
foreboding.
it looked bad.
Yeah. The logic was, I'm going to stay inside. And today it's very smoky, unfortunately. So we're okay. People I know are safe, but it's still an unfortunate thing.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fires around here too. And like, I think it was Sunday, I was on my porch and there was like ash falling from the sky. And I'm like, I don't live that close to the fires either. So it's just like, just coming our way. So
Right.
yes, it's not to get too distracted, but when I said 2020, I started thinking about the crazy weather that we've had this
I,
week.
I know. And I think, yeah, Colorado got snow. That's what I heard.
We did. It snowed Tuesday and Wednesday. So it was like 98 degrees on Sunday. And then it was like 93 where I was Monday. And then it was 35 degrees on Tuesday. And it's like 50 today. Like it's slowly kind of going back up to like a fall temperature. But like I was not prepared for this. I'm from Georgia originally. So, snow in the normal snow season, I get all like, whoa, snow. But snow in September, I'm like, okay, 2020 is like really, really giving it to us this year.
Right? Wow. Yes, exactly. We in one of my music therapy sessions, we rewrote the song "I Want It That Way" by the Backstreet Boys to "The Pandemic Can Go Away." So
Amazing.
that's when you asked me how my 2020 was. That song popped into my head.
What a perfect songwriting. So
It,
validating to everyone's feelings, and like what a like that's a bop. So like validating to a bop.
exactly.
And you can kind of keep going back to it even as a clinician. Like, please go away, COVID.
Exactly. I mean, like, we're not here to kind of sugarcoat things. I work with adults, and
Right.
they recognize that this is annoying, this is frustrating. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna sing about it. We're gonna, sing about what we wish we were doing right now. And then, after we've gotten all that out, then we can start talking about, well, what fun things can we do at home? How can we make our situation better just for today, But like, you gotta get it out, and why not do it to the Backstreet Boys?
Right, exactly. Oh, I love that. I feel like I'm gonna save that. Like that. I don't know when I'll need that, but I'm ready. Oh, so good. Yeah, and I love that, like how you said, like, yeah, we're not sugarcoating it. And it's almost like the blues. Like the blues is kind of a genre of music where you don't sugarcoat it. And so to acknowledge, like, yeah, you're working with adults, we can point out this year sucks. Like this year sucks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the blues, we did another blues songwriting. It was just like, I think we just called it the stuck at home blues. That was like,
oh yeah.
fresh COVID, I guess, 3 weeks in, everyone's getting a little antsy at home. So
oh no, 3 weeks in.
Yeah, we're still here. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, we're providing virtual services now in the time of COVID, and it's been a journey. We shut down our programs in March, mid-March, and got, I think, our virtual classes running like a month and a half later, and we're growing it. So it's required, all of us as staff calling the individuals we work with, calling the families, making sure that they're set up with technology. And then, I mean, there are people that don't have internet services. So then we're kind of stuck. How can we best provide services for you in this time? And we get creative, and I do phone call music therapy.
Yes, and we talked about this like off the podcast, so I'm so excited to go into this. This is in my notes.
Yeah.
Because I've heard of music therapists doing this. I haven't done phone call myself, but I feel like it's definitely not as common as like the online platform. But you're right, a lot of, what do you do when people don't have internet? How do we make this more accessible? So I would love, like, what does a phone call session look like? Any tips for people if that's something they need to venture into with their clients?
Yeah, it's a big, grand old experiment. It really is. And I mean, yeah, so we have people who really benefit from music therapy in person. We provide services for people where sitting in front of a computer does not make sense to them. It's too abstract and it's just not working. Where maybe a phone is a little bit more like tangible for them to hear my voice. So yeah, I reach out to the people mainly who we can't connect any way else other than calling them on the phone. And they are short. So, we can't go in expecting to do a 30, 45-minute session on the phone. It's not going to work. But I mean, I have one individual, we started maybe at 3 minutes and now we're up to 15.
Cool.
You just build into it, and people, they get used to it. So I think of it more in terms of less, I guess, session, like it's not very structured. The phone call sessions are not. It's me talking to them so they can hear my voice, because this may be the only contact they get for a little bit. And we're having conversations if they want to tell me about their day. If they communicate in different ways. I just give them more choices. They can maybe give me a yes or no. I let them choose what songs. It's always their choice, always, always. And then a lot of times to get them thinking forward and expecting my next phone call, it's like, what song am I gonna learn for you next week? And that's actually expanded my repertoire a lot during COVID, right? Because and a lot of them can think of just whatever song, and I'm like, okay, great, we're doing that next one. And generally I'm the one, picking the songs and structuring the session, but I want them doing it because in this time, especially, we're losing that sense of control. And I want them to have that structure of Hannah's going to call between 2:30 and 3 on Tuesday. Get ready. And, she's going to sing the song that we picked last week. And then I'm going to be able to choose some songs and we're going to make music together. So it's an experiment, and you have to really know the individuals you work with, knowing if they can do phone calls or not. Because some people, phone calls they're not going to work. And
right, okay. Like if they need more visuals, then either online or maybe, do you have cases where people just aren't able to do the virtual?
Yeah, we have some people that aren't able to kind of do those services, but what we do, since it's not just music therapists, it's a whole bunch of instructors. We have been making activity bags for people, and that's kind of our biggest service we're doing at this point, where it's like structured activities every day of the week for certain times, which also helps because some individuals live with their families, and families are busy, or in group homes where you may not get as much support. Doing those activities, it's structured for you. So we get creative, which is kind of where the phone call music therapy stemmed from. And my goal is to be able to do maybe socially distanced front yard music therapy soon.
Right. I know I'm wondering if I'm going to do that too. It's complicated with my situation, but also it's like, now I'm worried about the weather because it's snowing in Denver. I'm like, am I going to miss this window of like nice outdoor time and then have to stay online? I don't know. We'll just have to see. Because right now I'm all online too. Yeah. So
yeah, it's a forever changing thing. And I think the world of music therapy has changed forever.
Yeah, forever. I even think about like people in school, like, online's now going to be part of this curriculum.
Yeah.
That wasn't an option when I was in school. Like, it just never came up. No one would have ever thought like, oh, we should make sure this is in the curriculum.
Exactly.
And like, how is that not going to be in the curriculum moving forward?
Exactly. And I think like we're learning a couple of things working with adults is, one, we haven't prepared our adults enough to access technology. Many of them are super independent. They're teaching me about tech things. I have them, share the screen when I do Google Classroom. And I'm like, you do it. But we have people that they just never had that opportunity, so they don't know how to do it. And now we're trying to teach them virtually, which is so hard. So we're seeing that, the lack of education, from the start. And then, but on a kind of flip side, we are seeing some individuals really love these virtual services and open up way more than they would have in like a group setting at program, where they're actually greeting people, they're making choices, they're singing along, which, in a big group of people, they would probably be in the back, not talking, not engaging. And that's been really cool to see too. It's like, hey, now we're reaching some more people virtually.
Right. And before that wasn't something I know some music therapists were doing online stuff before COVID, but it definitely wasn't something like a go-to option of like, oh, maybe this would work better for this client or this adult. And it's like, it's so true that some people really light up behind the screen and in the comfortability of their own home. Yeah, for sure. It's very interesting, the whole dynamics of it all. And just this year. Yeah.
I know. It's interesting because in some ways it's, being able to do things at home and all virtually is more accessible for some people in the way they learn and the way they interact, which has been cool to explore and see that.
Yeah, definitely. Just to circle back a little bit, I had a question with the phone call session. Is there a delay with that, with singing with people, or does that eliminate it more, or is it kind of the same?
Unfortunately, I think there is a delay.
Okay.
For some of the people I do music therapy with who are really strong singers, I stop and have them sing and I accompany them. I don't know if it sounds like a delay on their end, but I keep trying to just gauge interest level and engagement, and it's still there. So I think it's working. I'm constantly asking, can you hear me? Okay, can you hear both my voice and my guitar? Yes, there is a lag, and I think trained musicians, it would get a little annoying. It's working for the people I am providing that service with.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's so funny with video calls because, yeah, I think especially if you're one-on-one, there's that delay, but it's like, I know as the music therapist, if I just keep going, it's going to sound fine to them. But yeah, as musicians, it's like, because it's so delayed. But I mean, I guess if it sounds fine to them, like you just keep going.
Yeah. And I keep asking them because I want to make sure that the things they're hearing is like sounds pleasant. But yeah, it works. But I would say it only works with certain people in very specific settings. But for me, it's a chance to connect. It's a chance to make sure that they are heard, and that we can make some music together. You can make some choices. You have something to look forward to. So,
yeah, that's awesome. So it's neat that you guys got that creative idea from the people where it wasn't a good fit for video, and with the abstract demos. Because I do think sometimes clients think I'm like a video. And then they're like, wait, that video's talking to me. Like, what? So yeah, like I think you're right. The phone call can be a little more accessible for different individuals. So really cool creative idea. I haven't heard that too much with COVID. So I'm going to keep that in my back pocket too, just to keep options open for people.
Yeah, definitely. I'm all about accessibility, and we work with a wide variety of people with a wide variety of needs. So how are we going to get to everybody? Because
right,
the job.
Right. Yeah. And so you're mostly doing sing-alongs on the phone, and maybe songwriting.
We have done a little bit of songwriting. I am starting to venture into that with some.
Right.
It doesn't work. Well, yeah, I'm venturing into it. It has taken kind of a while for people to get used to me calling every single week at a certain time, and I like to kind of structure, or I like to have them kind of structure, which is a lot of them choosing different songs. But
right.
I'm starting to do. I'm going to start to do more of the songwriting, I think, with some of them to kind of get more of the emotional expression going. So yeah.
Cool. Are most people that are on the phone, are they tech savvy, or are they on the phone because they're not as tech savvy?
They are on the phone because they probably don't even have internet at home.
Right.
And so that's the only way we can contact them, since we can't do anything in person. So yeah, I'm calling landlines and I know. It's great.
Well, I'm just asking because I was thinking, like, you've gotten my like creative wheels spinning of like, how would I do a phone call session? And I was like, could you text the person? Like, they have you on speaker, and maybe you could like send visuals. But if they don't have a smartphone, then they probably aren't having, they might not have the smartphone if they can't have the internet and the Zoom. It probably correlates where they have landlines.
Yeah, that's where it just gets, you got to get really creative, and it can get really tricky. And, you just have to get creative within like the means of where you work to provide services, because there are people that just don't have that access or have the support to help them utilize that. So that's why phone calls, almost everyone I work with, I know is comfortable taking a phone call. And whether they respond or not, I don't know. They heard me. They answered the phone. They made a choice. It doesn't matter if they're singing along or not. Yeah, it's more of like kind of at this point, we're trying to improve quality of life.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's a great segue into our next kind of topic. I want to kind of ask you about that second position you have as the person-centered planning coordinator. So you're both music therapist and this other title, correct?
Yes, yes.
Cool.
Yeah, so when I first joined this organization, I originally started as an instructor, but they saw that I was a music therapist, wanted to utilize my services, but the budget's not there for me to be full-time music therapist there. We're growing it, which is great. So I had another position kind of tacked on, and it's kind of evolved over the years, but recently it's person-centered planning coordinator. So there is a huge push, and there has been the past several years in especially the adult sector of person-centered planning, and seeing this implemented in adult day programs, employment programs, things like that. Because for a very long time, we have done a fairly good job. I shouldn't say a very long time. Most recently, we've done a good job of keeping adults with disabilities healthy and safe, and mainly focusing on that. And yes, we want to keep individuals healthy and safe, and that is a huge thing. But we also don't allow a lot of folks with disabilities to take risks or try something new or fulfill their own goals, hopes, and dreams. Many don't have that choice. Many have a team of people working with them, making choices for them. Right. And so the person-centered planning coordinator, we go in and we're looking at how we can make sure that everything we do at our program for the adults that we work with is person-centered. Are your goals person-centered? That's a huge thing. So, every individual that we serve has goals. They can range from life skill goals to finding a specific job or gaining a certain work skill to obtain a certain job. But we rarely ask like their hopes and dreams and what they really want. And we focus a lot on what's important for someone versus what's important to someone. And it's about finding that balance between important for and important to. And I use this analogy a lot, but I know exercise is important for me. I understand this. I know that it's going to decrease my stress. Maybe it's going to get me in shape. I'm going to feel stronger. I hate running. So, like, that's not important to me. So how do we find this balance? And we often, I know I've worked in the group homes for many years before being a music therapist, and we often are just focused on, oh, this person has maybe, they may need to lose some weight. They maybe have high blood pressure or something like that. And so we slap a goal on it, like they need to exercise to lose weight, the end of the goal. Well, there's plenty of adults floating around out there with high blood pressure and, high cholesterol and not exercising. So it's not saying, and this is where we have to find that balance, because it's not saying we don't care about this person's well-being. But what are we, how are we serving this person? It is about what they want. And you would also find that when you listen more to what they want, their quality of life may improve. Maybe you find out how this person wants to move their body other than like going to the gym or walking on a treadmill. There's other ways. Music therapists can come in. We can do lots of movement, Yeah, so it's about what the individual wants and making sure that they are heard and people are not really making decisions for them. Yeah, and it's a big thing. It's kind of a mindset that you need to think of. But yeah, that's kind of what I do. It's very long.
That's so cool. Oh, that's awesome. I think it's so important and like so significant for working with adults with disabilities. Because I loved how you said like there's plenty of adults that don't exercise and they should, or whatever. Yeah. But so why do we like focus, like hyper focus on these kind of goals to like kind of almost put people in boxes of like societal standards of like you need to be healthy weight, and then not taking in any kind of regard for what do they actually want, and because you could find that balance of like, you know, finding their interests in exercise. I love it. You're like using music therapy and like, yeah, finding different ways to maybe like almost problem solve, like how would you want to solve this problem versus like, here's the problem and this is the best way to solve it, and this is just going to happen to you.
Yes, exactly. And I find so often in working in kind of the realm of adults with developmental disabilities, we put them in a box, knowing, or they say, hey, I want a job. Okay, well, we have custodial jobs for you. We have hotel work for you. Okay, there are adults that work in our organization that have worked for the local hotel that's near us, have worked there for 15 to 20 years. They love it. That is their thing. That is what they've loved. Every single day they come to work with a smile. That's some adults. Not all adults want to go do custodial work or work at a hotel or something like that. And we often put those adults in a box of like, well, this is kind of your option. No, you can get creative. And that's where the person-centered planning comes in, because everyone is an individual person with specific wants and hopes and dreams. And it's kind of our job as like the advocates to kind of help make sure that that is heard for them.
Yeah, I love that. Let's get creative.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Oh, here comes Queenie.
Queen. Hi, kitty.
Yeah, and then Jenny Anderson was on a couple episodes ago, and she was talking about the 5 Fs, and they're like the different jobs that, like you're kind of saying, people get kind of boxed into, of like, oh, you can do this, this, this. It was like food, filth, and whatever the others are. And her brother are part of this organization that provides online classes about business for individuals with disabilities, for adults with disabilities, to be entrepreneurs, because it's not just those jobs. And so, like you said, some people, those are jobs for people that, and if that works for them, awesome, but it's not going to work for everybody. So how can we get creative with whatever option works for somebody, and get them as involved in those goal planning as possible?
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, it's a huge thing for those of you who are listening to this podcast. If you're working in meetings, and the meeting is about someone, but you're talking at them or to everyone else but them, just reevaluate it. It's their meeting. Whether or not they can communicate back to you doesn't matter. It's their meeting.
Right.
You ask them those questions because it is their meeting, their life, you know, and often it's just thinking about being in their shoes, just placing yourself in their shoes, and it will adjust your thinking really fast. You know, if I went in and had, you know, an entire treatment team just talking about me and I didn't get to say anything.
Right. Yeah. And I even approach that my kids sessions that way a lot too. If I'm like debriefing with a parent at the end and the kid's still there, I kind of get them involved, because again, they're going to pick up on that at a younger age too, of like, these people just keep talking about me like I'm not here. And so I'll try to involve them and be like, you did this today. And yeah, make it so they're included in the meeting, even at a younger age. Cause I think, unfortunately, it's not limited to adults with disabilities. It's limited to like all people with disability, or not limited. It happens to all people with disabilities, unfortunately, where it's just, okay, now we're gonna talk about you now.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So with the person-centered planning coordinator and music therapist, those are like 2 separate roles. And so are your music therapy goals something that you're doing in these planning meetings? Just kind of want to know, like, how does the goal setting work for both positions?
Yeah, so from my person-centered planning coordinator position, I kind of oversee everyone's like broad program goals and what you would call an individual service plan. There are times that I know I see that individual in my music therapy classes, because I'm not assigned. I provide services for whoever just shows up to my classes, but if they're consistent, you know, I see that they're responding really positively to music, and we could do a lot of a lot of work on their goals using music, then I can kind of go in and write that in there, and write kind of a specific music therapy goal, and that works. It's not for everybody because I don't see everybody, so I can sometimes insert music therapy goals, and that can be like their official goal if I know that they're going to be consistent. But oftentimes I'm going in with my music therapy sessions with more specific goals, and in the time of COVID, since I go in and do classes of 20 people, we don't have specific music therapy goals. We have big, broad ones.
Right.
Which is
quality of life, like you were talking about earlier on the phone, which is like, that's what everybody needs right now. So really, I love that it hones in on like, what do these individuals need now, versus like, again, kind of those shoeboxing goals. You could still be like trying to run after those exercise goals, like, oh, but we still need to do this in COVID. And it's like, wait, step back. Like, quality of life's what matters right now.
Exactly. And, it's quality of life. Like I said, with the phone call sessions, same works here in the virtual. How many choices can I offer you in a day? I want to give you as much control as possible in my 45-minute to an hour session I have with you. Opportunities for leadership. I love, because we have really great leaders, and that kind of boosts their self-esteem, and then it gets them involved with each other virtually because they're watching that person instead of me. And emotional expression. That's huge, because I don't really know what they're being told at home. But like I said, we're not sugarcoating things. They're allowed to express how they are feeling that day, and we talk about it and we sit with it. And we're like, yeah, it's a frustrating day today. Like, it's really frustrating, and that's okay.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it so much. Awesome. So we're kind of wrapping up. Do you have any other resources to share? Is there anything else that you want to share?
I don't really have any resources, but it's like a cry to all the music therapists out there. Give us some more research, please, with adults.
Ooh, yes.
I appreciate the people doing the research. I don't know if that's my gifting. But we need more research and resources, because I love my job. I love who I get to work with, and people need to know that.
Yes, I agree, especially with adults with disabilities. There's not a lot of research. AMTA had a podcast they released as part of their AMTA Pro podcast, and they're like, here is all the research on adults with disabilities. And this podcast is like, I'm gonna get the time wrong now, but it was like an hour, like it was a normal podcast length, they were able to fit all the research into like part of a normal podcast length. But I was like, oh no. They're like, here's the research. And it's good research, but it's like, we need more for sure. And then also research will be interesting after this year, kind of like we've been discussing, because it's like, we don't have any research on online stuff in any population. So what's the plan there?
Yeah. I don't know. It's one big adventure, and I never thought I would be doing, music therapy sessions with 20 plus people over Google Classroom.
Right.
We're doing it.
Yeah, it's been a year of definitely things I never thought I would do. And they've been good things. So.
Yeah, lots of growth.
Yes. Oh, perfect word. Awesome. So if listeners wanted to contact you for a question, is there a best way they could find you?
Can I do my email over at podcast? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'll put it in the show notes too.
Okay. Yeah. People can email me. I'm not super active on social media, but yeah, you guys can email me, hannah.gallagher08@gmail.com. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I love advocating for music therapy, and especially music therapy with adults with disabilities. Gets me super excited. So if you have questions, email me.
Yay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Hannah. I can't wait to share this with everybody.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. This was great.
All right, I hope that you enjoyed that conversation with Hannah as much as I did. It was inspiring to hear how she has pivoted during COVID-19 to meet her clients' needs in a person-centered way. And I especially liked the validation and singing of "The Pandemic Can Go Away" to the Backstreet Boys. What a great songwriting activity to really capture 2020 and how we can validate it, but also start working towards making things better too. And she also had to pivot her goals. I really liked how Hannah's now focusing on goals of giving her clients a sense of control, choice, and quality of life. And to really take into consideration their hopes and dreams and what do they want in goal setting during any time. And to make sure we're not boxing anybody in to what our expectations are, but what do they really want and what do they need and where can we find that balance of both to really respect the individual and come from that person-centered approach. Finally, I really liked how Hannah discussed how it's just one big adventure. What a positive mindset to have about the pandemic in this year. It's just one big adventure, and she also mentioned it as a year of growth. And both of these positive mindsets are really inspiring to me to remember that despite circumstances, we can see things as an adventure and as growth, and we can make it better while still validating the difficulties of a situation. And finally, my kind of call to action to everyone is remember to get creative. Just as Hannah had to get creative with her phone session and with her online sessions, this is a time where we need to get creative in our lives to meet our needs and our clients' needs, and to better serve adults with disabilities by getting creative and coming from that person-centered approach to really meet our clients' hopes and dreams. So now we'll end today's episode with our music therapy monthly session plan outline. So this month we have a fall-themed music therapy session plan for adults with IDD. It starts with Hello, then goes into Drumming to Changes by David Bowie, spotlighting different drummers if you're online, to a movement intervention to September by Earth, Wind, and Fire, to a songwriting intervention to Free Fallin' by Tom Petty, to a relaxation intervention to Harvest Moon by Neil Young, where you could choose a different fall thing or a favorite fall thing to think about or draw as the song is being played, and then the goodbye song. The breakdown of this plan and a workshop around session planning for adults with IDD is available to patrons on patreon.com/navigating adulthood and IDD, where the patrons I like to call navigators. Navigators for $5 a month support the podcast, get access to this breakdown of the monthly music therapy session plan. And the breakdown includes a written breakdown, a video explaining how I would implement the different interventions, and sometimes extra materials as well, including visuals, or this month there's a songwriting prompt and movement cards available as well too for the patrons. And then you also get access to episodes ad-free 1 week early from their release. So thank you so much for supporting this podcast. You can support by becoming a navigator on patreon.com/navigating adulthood and IDD, or by listening, sharing, and rating the podcast on iTunes. Any way you support the podcast is so greatly appreciated as we continue gathering resources for this wonderful population of adults with disabilities, so that we can really be providing the best services as possible that are person-centered, that really take into consideration what do the adults that we're working with, what do they want, what are their hopes and dreams, which I don't feel like we could reiterate enough. So yeah, thanks for listening to another episode, and we'll catch you next time. This podcast is by Rhythmic Roots Music Services, LLC, with content and music produced by Bonnie Haupt. Thanks for listening.